Hey, Angela.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. Thank you. And yourself?
Very well, thank you.
Thanks for coming on. Such a
Well,
pleasure to meet you, virtually at least.
it's very nice to meet you too, and thank you for the invitation. It's really appreciated.
It's a pleasure. So you're based in
Mhm.
Canada, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what's your average? So to come on a Sunday, so what's your average weekend? You must be like a busy bee as well, like 7 days a week.
Yeah, actually, the days kind of do fuse one into the other. That's true. Yeah, so today was an interesting day. I was doing a little bit of administration, which we all have to do every now and again. So I was doing that this morning and in preparation for our meeting later. So yeah, it's a
Admin is the worst. Like I hate administration. I hate admin. I'm gonna be
I
honest.
know, but gotta do it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, well, one of the guests I had in July, she was like, she needs to like allocate 1 day a month just for admin. You
yeah.
know,
Hmm.
like you can't do it every day, especially like as a creative. Whether you be a musician or author. So just allocate 1 day and get
Yes.
all your admin done. You know,
Yes.
especially like from her point of view, because it came to like each time she was releasing music, there's like contractual obligations that needs to get sorted out, especially with her
Mhm.
team and of course all the PRO registrations and so on. So she just allocates that day. So I guess we all hate it some way.
Yeah,
We
but
don't
it's
really like it.
necessary. I mean, it keeps you sorted and it keeps you organized. So there's really not much you can do. I mean, and if you look at it
Yeah.
as a necessary thing as part of it, then it's really not such a bad thing. You know that it's toward moving toward the common good of what you're trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah, true. I guess without it, you don't have no direction or you don't know what's really going on in your life. Yeah. But
Mhm.
anyway, but anyway. Okay, so I mean, we got an hour or so. So I guess what I love to do with guests first, before I get to like the core points, like just to go back to day one. Like, how did it all start for you?
Uh,
Did it start as a musician first, as an author first? If it was as a musician, how did it like come to be? How do you know like
oh,
this was for
that's
you?
that's a
Because
terrific
I'm yeah,
question.
because I was
Yeah.
listening. Actually, today I was listening to your music, and you got such a high, powerful voice. And the first thing that comes to mind is like, okay, were you in a choir? Did you do opera before? Like, where did it all start for you, and how did it unfold?
Okay, my journey is a little bit different than most musicians. So I think the best way to describe it is I sang by myself, very uh, sort of sort of not really with others, and because I was led to believe that I didn't sound any good, and this happened when I was very young. So what happened was. The first year, I was 6 years old, the first year of school, because we didn't have kindergarten in those days. And so it was a brand new school as well. And so they decided that they were going to start a choir. And so they auditioned all the children, but I had no idea what was expected. So I remember walking down this long hallway and going into the auditorium, which served as the gymnasium as well. And there was this intimidating, from my 6 year old self's point of view, lady standing there, and she blew into a little device, which I learned later was a recorder. But she asked me to replicate the sounds that I heard, and I had no idea what she wanted to do. So I just made some really silly sounds. And I still remember the shock she had on her face. And her words were very clear. She says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, dear. You can't be in the choir. You can't sing." And I said, "Okay, that's fine. I can't sing." So I went back to the classroom. And at the end of the day, when I got home off the school bus, my mom said, "How was your day?" And I said, "Well, this is what happened. And this teacher says I can't sing." And my mom said, "Well, that's all right. I can't sing either. So don't worry about it. But your grandmother could, but it's okay if you can't." So I said, "All right, that's fine." But the thing is, Kino, I liked singing. And one of the advantages of being growing up in a rural area is I would just go in the forest and I would sing there. And it gave me a lot of pleasure. And I thought, well, even if I don't sound any good, it feels good. And so I just did that every day I could. I just went in the forest and entertained, obviously, the animals, and and I always figured, well, you know what? No one can hear me here. Except that the silly part of it is years later, I heard from the neighbors, we all could hear you, Angela. And it was nice. So fast forward a little bit, when after my husband and I sold our company, which is about 11 years ago, I said, I'm going to take formal singing lessons now. And so I met a lovely person by the name of Marc Dubois, who is a lyric tenor, and he trained me in opera. And because my voice has a lot of operatic qualities to it, and so that was what we focused on. Although I must admit I was interested in singing in other styles as well. And so we did that for a number of years. And then, of course, the pandemic was sandwiched in between all of that. But I just continued to sing on my own, which I've done my whole life. And so then I found another beautiful instructor by the name of Cynthia Fox Fucile, and she's a mezzo soprano. And so I really enjoyed training with her. She was an awesome teacher as well, a wonderful vocal coach. And I really wanted to fulfill a lifelong dream, which was to produce an album. And so I worked with Cynthia, and I worked with another gentleman from that studio, which is called Hit That Note. And he has a recording studio called the Red Egg Studio. And so last year we worked on producing my album. And because I really love Celtic music, I wanted to have a number of songs on the album that focused on Celtic music. But I also wanted to feature 3 original songs that are a result of my poetry, because the other part of what you asked me earlier is what started writing or singing. I've always been writing poetry. So 3 of my poems were adapted to songs which are on the album as well. So my evolution is a little bit different than a lot of artists, because although I've always been singing, it was a very private thing for me. And it took a number of years to go on stage and sing. And I love performing, and I do for charity locally around here when I can. And so that's my journey. So it's a bit different than most artists.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, like with your poetry, what was it? Something that was also something like some sort of a like passion for you, or something that you went out to do it professionally?
Always a passion. So with the poetry, I found out early on that poetry was a wonderful way of expressing myself. I was rather shy when I was a kid, which again is probably why they told me I couldn't sing, and I believed them.
Yeah.
And so, okay, if that's what you say, it must be true.
It's like
Um,
sorry, like it's the shy ones that always shine at the end, you know?
oh, maybe
It's
so. That's very sweet. Maybe that's true.
yeah.
So, so I found that if there was something troubling me, or if I loved something in nature, because as I explained, I was always in the forest and always in nature, I found that poetry was a really wonderful way of expressing what I felt or what I saw. And so I've always been writing from that perspective. And there was one story that I want to share with you, which underlined to me early on the importance and the power of words. And I grew up in a really lovely environment with my parents, beautiful people, but all of us, we have our faults, and all of us will argue
Yeah.
from time to time. And I remember when I was about 10 years old, my parents were having an argument, and it was unusual for them to do so. And it sounded so bitter and so unhappy, and I didn't know what to do. And so I remember climbing upstairs to my room, and I went to my desk, and I wrote a poem called Dawn Is Not Long Now. And when it seemed quiet, I went downstairs, and my parents were sitting there talking quietly with each other, and I handed them this poem. And when they read the poem, they both had tears in their eyes, and it that showed me how important it is to communicate, and how the beauty of words can change a mental state, can cause you to feel calmer. And so that was an important lesson that I learned at 10 years of age. And so that has always left me then with a feeling that when I really am troubled or happy or just have something to convey, poetry for me is the most important avenue to express myself.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, there's poetry for some people. Some people love to write, like me. Like for me to express myself and to get what's inside or what's going on inside, outside, it's writing. I know people who love to draw, as soon as it comes to the mind, they want to draw it. That's expressing themselves and releasing any sort of like anxiety or depression that may be going on inside. As drawing, it's so important. Like, even if you're not an artist, or for me, I feel okay, you get artists, but everyone in life is an artist themselves. You're the artist of your life. So you
Yeah,
need to find some channel or means to express yourself. And by just letting that, whatever's inside, that input is out,
yeah.
it's going to do so much wonders for you.
Oh, wow. I love an artist of your life. That is so beautiful. I can almost think of some poems that would be so
Yeah.
beautiful to accompany those words. I love that expression. Very nice. And yes, we are authors of what we do in our lives. And I truly believe that there is something artistic in all of us. It just needs to be encouraged and it needs to be nurtured. And some of us don't get nurtured and give up right away, and others continue on like me singing anyhow because it just felt good. It just made my soul happy. And I tap into this beautiful
God.
um
Yeah, I think we
still
yeah, we're getting. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, we go. Oh, she went off. I come back in. Hi. Okay,
Hi.
yeah. I know you're back
Can
on
are
now.
we
You're back
connected?
on now. Yeah.
God. Wow. So did you I could hear you and you're quite clear visibly. I don't
Yeah,
know
it
what
was just like
happened.
freezing. Then
Um
you went off and then you came back in. Okay, but anyway,
oh,
it's cool.
oh
It's cool.
so did you hear my answer
I think you were at
or
the point, you were just getting into after what the author of your life, and then it started to like,
oh yes, I think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
beautiful. Yes, and so what I was saying, and I don't know if I'm repeating myself or not, but what I was
That's
saying
cool.
is that we all have that artistic ability, right? We
Yeah,
all
yeah,
have that
yeah.
in us. And sometimes we're nurtured and sometimes we're not. And even those of us who are not nurtured, sometimes it comes out anyway because it just feels so good. So I think we all need to tap into that, definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like controversial on the topic as well. It's just that, as the generations unfolded, we were never taught to express ourselves and be creators of our own destiny. We
Hmm.
were never, like, even if you went to school, you were never taught, or or given a manual or a textbook, on how to express yourself and be the artist of your life. It never was done. So it becomes difficult for some people, especially when you get so caught up in your day to day and how life is, how life was.
Hmm.
But it creates a lot of unhappiness in the world. It creates a lot of happiness if you don't tap into your true self.
That's
It
right.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it
And
really
I
does.
think you're absolutely right about the lack of encouragement. And I think that what I'm observing nowadays is that there is more encouragement now. But for me growing up, if someone said you can't sing, I took that as verbatim, right? I took that as absolutely the truth. And
Yeah.
except for maybe being an art class, because I used to draw and paint an awful lot when I was younger, that was really the only avenue that you had in school to express yourself. And not everybody is comfortable doing that. And so I felt, being a little bit of an introvert and shy, drawing and writing poetry was my way to express myself. But that was really done, except for the art classes. The poetry was really something I did at home and was encouraged at home by that. So I had good family for that. But in the school system, I think you're absolutely right. That I believe that's different now.
Yeah, no, it's changing because I mean now, you know, we don't have to depend on the traditional education system any longer.
Hmm.
Now you can educate yourself online. Exhibit A will be now us on this podcast. You tune into the podcast, you hear what Angela or Kino has to say about a specific topic. Boom. It's hard for people to digest, especially parents these days. It takes a lot of convincing. But sort of we do get there, sooner or later. Like I even look at my own parents who, like, I remember when I first came out and I said, because I start off as a DJ. And I'm like, no, I love to DJ. I love music. And then I worked my way, up the ladder. And then I went into music production. They never see it as, a means of income, or never see it as a legit or proper career until I actually proved it to them. And I started to convince them and share stuff with them. Then they finally got it. Okay, cool. Now we're going to support you with it. But these days, there's still a lot of convincing that needs to take place, because we're so dependent. Like if you have some sort of, let's just say, mental illness, for example, the traditional method is, okay, no, we need to send you to a psychiatrist who's learning
Hmm.
from a textbook that was written who knows how many years ago. But there's so many different avenues right now. You just need to like really understand the person that you're dealing with, to
Hmm.
find out, because you're going to take this wrong path, and then it's just going to cause you more havoc along the way.
Hmm.
More havoc along the way.
Yeah, we're all
Yeah.
individuals, and so therefore the approach on how we learn, how we absorb, how we express ourselves is going to be different. And cookie cutter type of approaches just don't work. And
Yeah.
you're right, there are so many possibilities with what's available online for learning, that nowadays there's so much more that we can absorb. I almost worry sometimes because there's so much. Like, how can you absorb it all? And you're not meant to. Obviously, we're not machines. But it is good that we can recognize now that there is so much more available, and that we're not all the same, and that we're all individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess one word that always comes up on the show is there's so much more awareness now in the world. You know, People are more conscious now in the world, and just like we just have to like filter it down. Even though it's still a lot of convincing, at least in my part of the world, but you filter it down. People need to understand, the true essence of life and what life actually is, and how
Yeah,
we've been blindfolded to what the
yeah.
truth actually is. And as you said, how we all so unique and we all so special and we all got specific gifts and specific talents. You know, it's
Mhm.
just about identity, more awareness. Awareness.
And wouldn't it be nice if that level of awareness was raised even higher, so that we would stop the wars, we would stop the conflicts, and just stand back and say, I see you as a person and I appreciate you, rather than these barriers, because we still have so many barriers. But if that level of awareness, that energy could be raised up higher, oh gosh, that would be an amazing world then. And more recognition of the plight of animals too, like just that awareness. It would be so nice to see it raised even higher.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So with your charity work, where's it focused? Is it focused with like
Oh,
humans or animals,
yeah,
both?
Yeah, actually, I do have my main focus is an organization. I'm one of the directors, and it's a wildlife rehabilitation center. It's called Procyon Wildlife Rehabilitation and Education Center. And so there's two components. The first component is that we rescue injured or orphaned wildlife, and then we heal them or raise them if they're orphans, and then release them back to the wilds. So that's the first component of the work that we do. The second part is education. So again, going back to that awareness, this is a nice segue into that. So awareness of the of what to do when you see an animal that's in trouble, awareness about their plight, because there's a lot of construction going on across the world, I think, but certainly in my neck of the woods. And so we're losing habitat for this wildlife. They're being displaced. And so people are interacting more with wildlife than they used to, because they're occupying an area which was maybe a year or two before was meadow or a forest, and now it's housing, right? So those animals have been displaced. So we like to have that education component about what we do at Procyon Wildlife as well. That is very rewarding work. I am in awe of the volunteers who do the animal care. I'm more involved in the administration end, where I manage their website and graphic artwork and some of the other administrative things that are involved in running the center. But it's a very rewarding thing to see these animals healed or raised from being an orphan into strong, smart, funny little things that get released into the wild.
Yeah, yeah. And how long have you been doing it?
I've been with Procyon since 2016, so about 8 years.
Wow,
Yeah,
it's a long time. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So do you guys just focus like locally, or do you have like an international mandate?
No, we have a local mandate. Basically, we are governed by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, which is called the MNRF in Ontario. So basically, our focus is Ontario. There are other rehabilitation centers within Ontario, which is important. They're needed. Our area is pretty vast, though. We probably cover about 100-kilometer radius from where the center is in helping animals in need.
Wow. Okay, big ups to you. Big ups to you.
Thank you.
Standing up for um, species that can't defend themselves. Unless they bite you, but they
Well,
can't speak for themselves,
they bite you, it's because you've aggravated them, likely.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, we look at wild species and we think, oh no, I'm scared, they're gonna kill me. But if you don't harm them, okay, I'm not guarantee you it's not gonna harm you, but if you don't harm them, you're good.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it's
then
a yeah.
yeah, and I mean, animals can at times have like a smarter sense than humans, and they sort of like sense, like spiritually, are you a good person or not? So if
Mhm,
I'm going to attack you, because I know you have a dirty heart and you have bad intentions towards me now, you
mhm.
know. So humans need to understand that part as well. It works both ways.
Yes,
It's
it
like,
does. It does.
yeah, it's like,
Definitely. Like even with our domestic pets, like we had some workers come into our house not too long ago, and our cat, who's usually pretty sociable, he did not like these people. I don't know what was wrong, but he did not like them. And yet the next day we had some other workers in to do some other things for us, and he liked them. So you're
yeah, yeah,
absolutely right. Animals, whether wild or domestic, do have a sense of whether you mean them harm or not. But really, with respect to wildlife, the best approach is always to just respect and stay away. Don't try to get those crazy photo ops that you see some people sometimes trying to do. Respect their space, respect their habitat, and don't interact with them, because they deserve that peace. They deserve that sanctity of their own space.
yeah. So what's like the most, uh, let's use the word dangerous species you've ever come across?
Well, they all can be dangerous if aggravated. So
Or
in the case of Ontario, um, sometimes we'll encounter raccoons who have distemper. That's not good. but any animal that's cornered can become dangerous in seconds. And so
Yeah.
our volunteers have specific ways of restraining an animal if the animal is sick. For example, we've been getting a lot of beautiful foxes that have mange, and that's a sort of a mite that burrows under the skin, and eventually it can cause death to these animals if it's not treated. However, fortunately, if we can capture the foxes, or it also will happen with coyote, those are the two common ones we usually see. They can be fully recovered in about 6 weeks with treatment by us at the center. But obviously, when you have an animal that's sick and frightened, they're going to be dangerous. That's a given. So I can't see one as more dangerous than the other. In certain circumstances, you can get bitten, and so our volunteers are trained very well in handling any animals that need help that way. And so it cuts down the exposure and the danger. If you know what you're doing, then it's a pretty safe process. They were actually having a seminar just yesterday for our advanced volunteers on how to safely restrain an animal. So, these are things that are ongoing parts of our education as well for our volunteers too.
Interesting. Just to conclude this topic, like cats, when you mention cats, if we look at the history of cats, we follow roots like back to Egypt, and cats are like spiritual creatures. So they pick up on something, they know something that we don't. So it's a good animal to have around.
Oh,
As you
absolutely.
said, a friendly, sociable cat can hate one person or dislike one person, and then the next
Oh,
person
yeah,
that comes, no, we're all friendly, we're cool, we're friends now, they pick it up,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
I
pick
mean,
it
he
up.
was so upset. I wasn't home at the time. He was so upset. He went to my husband and meowed, like actually trying to tell him. And this is a very verbal cat. He talks a lot all the time. But it was very clear that he was quite upset, and he was saying, "I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable." So there you go.
What's his name or her name?
His name is Mr. Tommy, and Mr.
Yeah.
Tommy is 19 years old.
Okay, Mr. Tommy sounds like a cool dude.
He is a
Sounds
sometimes
like a
we
cool
call him Mr. T.
dude. Okay, so let's talk about David Harris in your
Ah,
book.
yes.
Like, so, I read the description about the book. So, how did this storyline come about? It's like, just reading the description is like, watching a movie now. And I'm
Ah,
thinking, sure, like, how did you come up with, like, with this concept of
the
somebody now
concept.
getting affected, which is true. I mean, what you're saying is true. You're like, I mean, not sure whether your book is sold as fiction or non-fiction, but this is like a reality of being a human, of like having certain deja vus from our past life,
Mhm,
that affect us. This is so deep. This is a deep topic. So
mhm.
yeah, I'm
It's one of
intrigued
my
to hear from your point now, like how did
one
it come?
Yeah, one of my favorite topics, actually. And so, again, I'm going to go back to my childhood for just a brief moment.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I grew up in a unique environment where my mom and dad, they were moderately psychic, more healing on the part of my dad. And my mom had a little bit ability, but it was muted. But they had a lot of friends. They would go to spiritual gatherings, and they had a lot of friends who were very psychic, and they befriended a number of them. They just hit it off. And so two that would visit us most often were Rosemary and Josh. And so subjects around our dinner table would be about reincarnation, about different aspects of mediumship. So I was exposed to this concept from a very early age, and I'm very used to the idea of reincarnation, and I do believe in it. And I think that a lot of the skills that you see someone who's a genius, and whether it's music or art or mathematics or science, and I think that that has to be coming from past lives, the accumulation of knowledge that has happened over a number of lifetimes. That's what I think. But so in my early 20s, I had the idea that maybe I would transition from writing poetry to writing a book. And I must admit, I had this idea then, and I abandoned it because I got busy. You mentioned about how you get busy with work and life. And so I put that manuscript aside. It was about a third of the way done, and I put it to the side and didn't think much about it. But the idea had always been, what if someone was murdered? What if they reincarnated right away? And early enough then that the killer may still be alive. And that's a topic that I always was playing around with in my mind. About 2 years ago, I came across the manuscript in December of 2022, and I thought, cleaning out my drawers, I thought, should I get rid of this? And I thought, well, let's look at it this time, because usually I would just stuff it back in the drawer. And I started to read it, and I thought, well, I want to modernize a lot of the technology that we have available nowadays. I think that will give it a more contemporary feel and more realistic for today's time. And I really thought, you know what, there's a lot I need to rewrite, but I really like the premise of this story. So the protagonist, David Harris, he is having nightmares, and he's had them since childhood. And nobody can figure out why he has these kind of dreams. His parents have sought help from traditional medicine, from psychiatrists, psychologists, and nothing's helped. And they're pretty debilitating. They do go away for a while during his mid-20s, but then as he gets to approaching the age of 30, the dreams are coming back, and they're even worse than ever. And he can't really quite sort it out. By happenstance, or not so much, I think it's fate, he meets a young lady by the name of Emma Jackson. And Emma Jackson is a psychic she's developing her skills. And as they get to know each other, she realizes that these dreams he's having, she actually has a shared dream experience with him, a vision. And she realizes these are likely memories and not something that's stemming from childhood trauma, which is what all the medical experts have been saying. So she convinces David to have a past life regression. And during a series of regressions, it is discovered that he indeed was murdered, and he did reincarnate so soon that his killer, after they do a little bit of quick work on the internet, they realize the circumstances of his death, and they realize the killer is still alive after a bit of sleuthing on their parts. And so from there, the story shifts from solving, like Emma had hoped, just finding out what had happened would be enough closure for him. But now that he realizes the killer is still alive, now he has this burning desire to find justice, because David is a lawyer, so he's well steeped in this sense of justice. And so it switches now to, I need to find justice, and I don't want this to happen to anyone else. So there's this sense of making sure the killer does not strike again. So that's the premise of the story.
Yeah. And I guess, for listeners, if you want to find out more, purchase the book, How This All Ends for David. But I mean, this is so true, This is so true. Like, from where I'm sitting, I can't even call this sort of scenario or play like fiction. I just can't. That's just my opinion on it. There's more deeper meanings to dreams than people actually realize. Understanding your dreams, writing down your dreams, researching more wider with a spiritual healer or whoever about your dreams is so important. It's hidden messages. How do those hidden messages play a role in your life? That's for you to find out now and go and research. But it's not something that's happening, just, randomly. It doesn't work that way. So, so you can continue.
You're right. I mean, what you say, I'm loving our conversation because this is really true to my heart. And you're absolutely right. Those dreams, those images, you should write them down, because they are messages your subconscious is processing, not just what's happened to you during your current lifetime, but I think that it can be processing or reminding you about a situation you may have lived before in order to help solve the situations you have in your current life, because we are the culmination of all ourselves. And so what we are today is really the result of the lives we've had before. And so, yes, if you get a glimpse into that, then I think it can help you with your day-to-day life now.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, just on the topic of dreams, and I know everyone will have a different process, a different method, on how to actually like dissect it and find out the true meaning behind it. What methods would you like advise, on that after people write down their dreams?
Like,
What works best for a person?
like advice on how to interpret their dreams,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
advice. Well, I think that's very individualistic, and I think the best thing to do is, if you've had a dream, immediately write it down, because a dream will just disappear into the air if you don't write it down. By the time you wake up, it's gone. So whether you dictate it into a device, or whether you have a note paper and pen by your bed, make sure you write it down. And then I think the best way to try and interpret your dreams, I know there's books out there that will help you, saying this symbolism is that, this symbolism could mean this. But I think that if you sit down and you meditate on it, so just take some time when it's quiet for you and meditate about what that dream could have meant, and just let your mind sort of be quiet and peaceful. A revelation may come to you, and it may not be like sitting meditating. It might be actually thinking on it while you're going for a walk in nature. But whatever you do, try to connect with what that dream might have meant, because you could tell a friend the dream and they may have some insight, but that's not you. You need to try to pull that out of yourself. So I would say do it through meditation, whichever format that might take, by just taking quiet moments and reflecting on what that dream was. And you may even just let it go and not even be thinking about it at all. And then moments later, or a little later, you're going to have that aha. That's what that dream meant. That's what that imagery meant. I think I understand. So, and maybe you won't. So there may be times it doesn't come, and maybe it comes days later. But there is that element to you, that element for you, that you should allow your mind to go free and relax and try and get those thoughts sorted so that it will come to you unbidden. That's the idea anyway.
It's so important what you said there. Let your mind go free. Probably the hardest thing a human can do. you know, let your mind go free. Meditate. I guess like, yeah, for me, sometimes when I have like a dream, you wake up and either you write it down or you remember what it is, the next morning. But as you said, the more you just spend time with it and reflect on it, it's sort of like you connect the dot. Oh no, this is happening because this happened now in like this conscious state of mind, and it connects the dot and it's giving you like sort of direction. And it's up for you to, instinct also plays a role. For me, once again, this is my opinion. Like, I can have a dream, I connect it the next morning to something that's been happening in my conscious state of mind, and I go on instinct on which direction to actually go with this. Maybe it's a decision I wanted to make. Who knows? But my instinct is going to tell me, my heart is going to tell me, oh no, make yes or no. After I've connected the dot on it, or which direction to go, or it's telling me what to actually do next on a specific topic that I'm confused about. But it's the topic is just, it's complex. It's so complex, interesting, but also extremely complex. But something that I feel everybody needs to go down the road. You have to go down the road.
Yeah. And the answers will come. And you're absolutely right with everything. Like, we're totally in sync on this thought that the answers do lie with you.
Yeah.
I mean, talking with a friend may help give you clarity, but honestly, those answers lie with you to discover.
Yeah. No, definitely. So either, doesn't say that, like, the confusing part is like, is it something like present? Is it something now like David linked to a past life? Where does it, like, but I am intrigued, to find out. So where can people purchase the book?
Well, Amazon is probably the easiest way.
Amazon, right?
Yeah, I would think so. There are other online sources to obtain the book, but on an international level, I think Amazon is probably the simplest and easiest. And you can get it in an ebook format, soft cover and hardcover. And I am currently working on making an audiobook as well, because I think a lot of people enjoy, if they're driving, then they can listen to. I love that too. Like if I'm driving, there's times I'll just put on an audiobook. I just enjoy that. So that's an important area that I'm currently working on, to have an audiobook for Past Life's Revenge as well.
Yeah, that's it. I'm more of a physical guy. Like I love to just sit down, with the book in my hand and unless it's an educational book, then I can do with Kindle. I make it work with Kindle. It's just easier and much more cheaper that way. But when it comes to a book Past Lives Revenge, I would love to just
hold
it, hold it, get into.
Here it is.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. Thank you.
And since we're talking about my album, there's my album. Oh, that's crooked. Yeah. There we go.
But for someone who was told she can't sing, they were so mistaken at that point in life, because your vocals are yo,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love it. It was so nice to be able to. I just had this really strong desire to put that music into an album, and I'm just so glad I had that opportunity. And I love singing. There's just no way I would. I'm glad I didn't give up, and glad I didn't listen. But my solution was that I just said, well, if you think I can't, then I'll just go in the forest so you can't hear me. They hurt me.
Yeah. And I mean, you had a passion for it. You set a goal. I want to do an album, and you did it.
Yes.
That's amazing. Set the goal and do it. Don't worry about what the critics are saying or whoever told you that you can't sing. If that's your goal, that's your passion, go ahead and do it. Don't do it for anybody else but yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
Please yourself first. Make yourself happy first before you want to make the world happy.
That's right. It's the truth. And it's the same thing with that book. I mean, I had toyed with the idea, and then I just decided, I must say my husband inspired me a little bit, because he released his first book called Outfoxed, and he released that in January of 2023. And I think part of that inspiration for me picking it up in December of 2022 was the fact that he was ready to launch his book. And I thought, you know what? That's inspirational. I'm proud of my husband, and I have a partially written manuscript here. I mean, I should just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
So I did.
Now, I mean, as far as relationships is concerned, it's good to find yourself in that sort of relationship where you can all just inspire each other.
Oh, yeah.
To chase those goals. Not be in a relationship where I want to write a book, but there's no inspiration, and your partner is telling you, nah, it's not worth it. Why are you going to waste your time? Then you're definitely with the wrong person. Someone is telling you that you're with the wrong person. Yeah. So what is next for Angela? Is it a next album? Is it a next book? Is it both?
I have several projects on the go. So I have already begun to write the sequel to Past Life's Revenge. This one is going to be called Revenge is Not Enough. So I have that revenge. David and Emma continue to work together now. They are sweethearts, but they do continue to work together. And because David was fulfilled with the fact that he got answers and he got justice, and so Emma and David now are in the position of saying, but there are other cold cases out there. And what if we use the paranormal to try and help solve these cases? Keeping in mind that we always need to have law enforcement help us, but if we can at least use the paranormal to point the police in the right direction, and then they can adopt good old sleuthing skills, I think that that's sort of the direction I'm going, and that gives me plenty of room to write a number of books within this series. So that is my goal. I'm about a third of the way through Revenge is Not Enough. And my goal is to have that ready by probably the middle of next year. So that is a project. I'm also working on, when I look at all the poetry I've written over the years, there's quite a lot. And so I have been working quite a bit lately on a poetry book of all my poems, so a compilation of that. And I hope to get that done early in the new year. With respect to an album, I am planning on doing one that's probably a year or two off, but I do want to do another album as well and incorporate more original music. This first album has 11 songs on it, but 3 of them are originals. The rest are traditional Celtic songs, but with really nice interpretations with them, with the studio I worked with. But yeah, so I am planning on all of the above. So the poetry is the first project early this coming year. The next one will be the book mid this coming year. And then probably the following year, I'll be going back into the studio and working on an album project. So those are my
Nice,
goals.
nice.
In
Nice.
between
Goals never stop.
Yeah, so it never stops. In between working with Procyon, we have an upcoming fundraising gala, which is coming up on November 23rd. So we can raise funds for the center because we don't get any funding from government. So we have to go and be creative in raising funds to keep us operational. So that keeps me busy. It's a country property that keeps me busy, but the artistic aspect of it, is always paramount for me. It's very important in my life.
Nice. Well, look, you're going to probably get more out of the private sector than government as far as funding is concerned. And there's going to be
Well,
less
yeah,
red tapes anyway. you know.
stage, yes,
So,
that's absolutely true.
I mean, Past Lives Revenge, I'm hoping to, like, in the future to come see, like, a movie out of this or a series out of
Oh,
this,
yeah, wouldn't
you
that
know?
be nice? I
Yeah.
think
And
every
I mean,
author has that dream.
yeah. And I mean, you know what? To submit to Netflix, for example, in 2024 is so much more easier than it was, let's just say 10, 20 years ago, for
Mhm.
an author. You can. Now you can actually just, submit your storyline, submit your book, and hear what they say. But I feel like Past Lives Avengers, yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely something that I would love to see, like, online. As a series would be cool, yeah, as well. But I mean,
Yeah,
even a movie.
yeah, I think so. Like, I think a series would work, but a movie would be great too. I mean, anything like that would be absolutely thrilling to see it on the screen. And I think it's always
Yeah.
interesting the interpretation that screenwriters will do and directors will do with a written work of art, and their interpretations are always fascinating and how they come up with that. So it would be
Yeah.
fascinating what they would do with it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe after the sequel is out, something to look into.
Yeah, I will think about
Something
that.
like
It's
that.
a good idea.
Yeah. As I said, it's so much more easier these days. Hey, like, even guys here based in South Africa who are coming up with like, different sort of movie ideas or series ideas, now like I just assist them, okay, like you can submit now direct to Netflix or whoever, you know. Because we're not in this era of, just traditional TV anymore, it's all online. There's
Yeah.
even I forgot what this website is called. I actually signed up for to test it out, but you can actually on it. Okay, so I mean, okay, you got YouTube, but this is like you can create like your own TV channel using
Uh-huh.
their hosting services.
Oh.
Like even if you want to do like your own production,
Mhm.
you just do it by yourself. There's so
Yeah.
many avenues, you can actually go
Yeah.
down. Yeah. And I mean, I can also, just before we conclude, like I'm working with a psychiatrist, a retired psychiatrist as well, based in the States. So she's
Mhm.
focused on suicide prevention. And we've
Oh.
launched like our own podcast together on the topic itself. It launched last week, Tuesday. And there's like a new, live podcast each Tuesday. But she's also like, talented when it comes to poetry. So what she's done with her poetry, like focused on suicide prevention, and she converted into visual arts, and then she created a YouTube channel out of it. So that's something also cool, you can do with your
Yeah.
poetry. So she hires like freelance singers, vocal, but I mean, you could do it yourself. You're a vocalist. She's not a vocalist, so you could do it yourself. And then she uses this, like, I mean, depending on the topic or what your poem is about, focus. Like if it's on animals, focus that, put it online and get that awareness there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
so that's also quite cool with poetry.
Yeah, that's the beauty of poetry, because you can say a lot with very succinctly, which is what I love. And there are so many powerful messages. Like with a poetry book that I'm putting out, I had originally thought I would just sort of go with when I wrote it, just sort of go chronologically. And then I began to realize that wasn't really suitable, because I have a number of themes. And one of my biggest themes is nature, and how Mother Gaia is in danger with the expansion and with the way that we are mistreating our world. And so I noticed that I had a theme there. I also had a theme which featured around love and other emotions. And so I decided that instead of going chronologically, I would group it by subject, by the things that I find the most passionate, which is nature, which is relationships. And also I have another category which is to do with social commentary. And so and I think it's going to work, it'll flow better for me to present the poetry that way. But you're 100% right. Like, poetry is such a great way of conveying in very few words, making commentaries on the things that trouble us in society, that trouble us in the world, and our relationships, and suicide. Wow, that's a really important topic. And it seems that as much as we want awareness about this subject, it seems as if there still isn't enough, that people suffer so much internally and they don't share, that they're afraid to share what they're feeling. And gosh, it would be nice if we could eliminate this tragedy from people's lives. So good for
Yeah.
you to create that awareness to the public.
Nah, thanks. I mean, look, the first episode was, just what you said, it's not enough. So we're actually trying to use this platform now to actually close the gap on why isn't it enough? Because if we look at the figures, we're looking at 700,000 worldwide. That's how many lives we lose, to suicide. So something is not working. So now we have to identify what's not working, because, once again, like how we started off, this conversation is, when something is wrong, something may be going on inside with the person. We want to follow the traditional methods, but the traditional methods are not working, because if it was working, we wouldn't be here still talking about the topic that there's a problem.
Right.
We wouldn't have 700,000 and a number that just keeps going up. We wouldn't have that. So we need to relook at our methods. We need to relook. For me personally, once again, my opinion, the healthcare system is a failure. Whichever component you look at it, it's a failure. It's not working, especially when it comes to mental illness. It is not working. If anything, it's making things worse for a person.
Yeah.
You could go in, they tell you, you crazy, whatever. Yeah, we need to do this and we need to do that. But those methods are making you worse. They're making you crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll see how it goes. And we take it. I was actually going to laugh when you were talking about how, poetry is so powerful, right? To express how you're feeling about a specific topic. And I was going to say, we've come such a long way since roses are red, violets are blue.
Yes,
But that was
indeed.
poetry fast, it was like a romantic gesture. That's what poetry was, growing up.
Yeah.
I'm going to write a girl a poem.
Yeah. It's different now. And I love it. Like, I belong to a writing group, and anyone interested in writing should always belong to groups where you can have writing prompts and share your work with each other. And the people who are writing the poetry, I always find it so interesting, because nearly always they have this component, which is making a commentary on something that's happening in their lives or in society. And I think that is just really awesome. I think that's important.
Yeah. No doubt, no doubt. So yeah, Angela, thank you so much for coming on and joining me. This was really good. It was interesting for Sunday. This is the first time I've done a podcast on a Sunday.
Oh,
So
for
this was
me,
cool.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
hope
this was
it didn't
cool.
disrupt. I'm sorry about last week. I had
No,
a,
no, it's fine.
but
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. It was, I really loved our conversation. It was so interesting, and I enjoy these podcasts because you get to meet different people from all over the world, and
Yeah.
shows
Yeah.
our connectivity. It shows how connected we are, no matter where we are on this beautiful planet. So
Yeah.
it was a real delight to talk with you, Kino. Really nice.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, when it comes to a podcast, you the universe will bring you into the room with the people that actually have the same intentions as yourself, for the world.
Hmm.
It's just how it always was. I mean, when I started off podcasting, it was here and there, and I had guests coming on. But not once can I say I've had a guest that came on where we weren't on the same frequency, you know,
Ah,
about life, about society, no matter what it may be. Yes, we all artists in our own right. You're a vocalist, you're a composer, same here, I'm a producer. But it's just one part of our lives. There's a bigger purpose there, you know.
yeah,
Yours is
yeah.
now, animals, using your art to save animals. That's what it comes down to. It's charitable at the end of the day,
Hmm.
which is so special and so unique. So yes, thank you. All the best for your future endeavors and adventures ahead and the sequel. And I'm looking forward to reading your book. I am. I
Oh,
am.
wonderful. Well, drop me a
And
line.
watching
Let
it
me know
online
what
one
you
day.
I'd love to
Yeah,
know
and
what you
watching.
think. And
No,
I wish
definitely, I
you
would.
the very best as well, Kino. I really do. And I really
Thank
treasure the
you. Thank you.
conversation. It was lovely.
It was. It was. Thank you. So I will send you and Mickey the link once it's uploaded, and yeah, we take it from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Please enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, you enjoy too.
Okay.
Will you be able
Sorry about that. Oh.
question? I just was
No, no,
curious.
yeah.
Um, will you be able to splice out the parts that were where we lost
Yeah. So
contact?
what I'm going to do is, I'm going to play it. I'm going to say exactly what happened because at times it may freeze like live while we're recording, but in the
Yeah.
background it doesn't.
Hmm.
So I'm just going to like play it out and then save it there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but
Terrific.
with me, like when something happens while I'm in this conversation with guests, and guests are like, you get these podcasters out there that spend like a whole week editing the podcast. I'm like, keep it organic, show people you're human, you know,
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
you
No,
know.
those are the best conversations, right? They're just natural and free flowing.
Yeah, those are the real conversations. Something I mentioned a few weeks ago was like, when people look at us and we're having these conversations or whatever it may be, or you've written your book, they think you're so perfect. I can't be Angela. I can't be Kino. But yes, you can.
Oh, yeah,
We just as human as you, we also make mistakes. We
of
also
course.
have, interruptions while recordings are happening. It happens. It's part of
Yeah, for sure.
it. you know so like I just and like I'm one of those guys who like I want to show people that even though I can be here having this conversation and having a podcast, I'm as human as you, and if you want to do it, you can also. Maybe there's a topic you're concerned about, get on there,
Yeah.
and do it.
Mhm.
Perfect as you move along. That's my slogan in life: perfect as you move along. If you're
Right.
passionate about something, start it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Start it, see what's next.
Definitely.
Yeah, but okay, cool, thank
Oh,
you.
all right.
And
Thank
yeah.
you very much. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.
You
Thank you so
too.
much.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.